watching Power Up with Trisha Hershberger and myself, Maude Garrett, and we have a guest on this week to reveal what they are watching for this particular episode. William Haynes is with us. He is our guest for this particular week with UPA, which is sweet. You've been watching quite a bit, huh? What have you been watching?
Oh my gosh, I love the graphics you guys have. I have been obsessed with Star Trek.
What?
Like, I always liked Star Trek. I always liked the original 1960s Star Trek. Like, my parents watched it when I was growing up, but like, it must have been like November, December 2019. I was like, I have this rule about watching stuff. I really don't watch stuff casually like most people. If I'm watching something, I have to be paying attention to it. But I was like, I need something to put on in the background as I go to sleep. So I put on Star Trek The Next Generation, the 1987 show. And I was glued to it because it's from another time. It's like hilarious, especially the first two seasons are like hilarious at like how campy they are. But at the same time, Jean-Luc Picard, who's played by
William Shatner.
Patrick
Stewart.
Stewart.
Hold on, which one's Next Generation though? Because you were saying it was 1987. Isn't that one?
That's 1987. The original is from the 60s. Sir Patrick Stewart's acting is like it brought me in. At first, I was like, who are the rest of these casts? But as I started watching it, I fell in love with all of the characters. I'm such a huge fan. It's like the highlight of my day. Like, I'm on like season 5 of 7. I'm like, this is like it. Now my favorite TV show of all time is Frasier. Now this is like tied with it. Frasier and Star Trek: The Next Generation are my two favorite television shows.
Very different shows.
Very different. But you'd be surprised to know that all of the characters from Star Trek: The Next Generation, almost like at least 3 or 4 members of the main cast have been on Frasier. And I've seen every episode, all 11 seasons of Frasier, I've seen 3 or 4 times in a row. I know every single episode of Frasier. Like, I can't even watch it anymore because I know it too well. And after I watched TNG, my friends were telling me, oh, did you know that Data, the android with all that paint on his face, is in this episode on the airplane of Frasier? And I'm like, what? And there's an episode in where of Frasier where Sir Patrick Stewart plays like a gay, like very influential theater goer, and Frasier pretends that he's gay to stay being cool with him, and it's hilarious. And I'm like, wow, my two worlds are combined.
Have you seen Picard then?
I haven't, because I still have 2 seasons left of TNG, but all my friends are like, oh, like, you don't have to watch it. But I'm like, I'm a Sir Patrick Stewart stan, so I'm gonna have to.
People in chat are talking about, Will, how you have absolutely excellent taste, and that TNG is so good. And Frasier was on TNG, the Double Think Press says in chat.
He was. I finally just got to that episode. Oh, the Kelsey Grammer episode. He is in it for all of 35 seconds. But I started watching it because Owen, our Steve's best friend for life, who's now part of my best friend trifecta, he used to live with me, and he kept telling me about it. He's like, Kelsey Grammer is in an episode, and Frasier's wife, his ex-wife Lilith, is in it too. And so yeah, my 2 favorite things have this weird, and they talk about Star Trek all the time on Frasier. So yeah, it makes sense.
Were you born when TNG was out, airing for the first time?
I think TNG is like 87 to 96. So I was like, I'm 93, so I was like a baby. And Frasier is like 93 to 2001 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was barely alive for both of these shows.
So if people have not seen any Star Trek, what would you ask them to start with?
Don't watch the first 2 episodes of TNG. By coincidence, I had skipped them. They are too long, the pacing is bad, and you don't need to watch it.
Okay. But do you suggest that they start with TNG? Like, if someone's like, man, Will's talking about Star Trek, gets me so hyped I have to check out this series, you think The Next Generation is the place to begin?
I loved the original Star Trek. I remember I got sick in 2017, and you can't do anything but watch TV, so I watched a bunch of the original 1960 Star Trek, and I loved it for its hilariousness. And my parents always watched it when I was a kid. But like I said, once I started watching TNG, I was like, OMG, they took Gene Roddenberry is the creator of both shows. He did the 60s show and the 80s show. He was so great at world building. By the time the 80s rolled around, and he died like 5 years into it, he had made his world so much incredibly better. But there's this in the two shows are just so like sexy. They're way too sexy. It's like, why is she wearing a dress on the spaceship? Like, what? And what's so funny about it is it's not just sexy.
Breaking protocol. You must be in uniform.
I mean, and it's sexy to both men and women. Like, it's like as soon as you're like, oh, that girl is too scantily clad. Like the dude, like Sir Patrick Stewart, you will see his whole body. You will see all of William Shatner. You will see all of William Shatner. It's too sexy.
Oh
it's
boy,
too sexy. But yeah, you can watch any of it.
I see a comment in chat from Welsh Andy T says TNG, Voyager, DS9, Orville. Watch them in that order. Do you agree, Will?
Yeah, so my uncles, they who are also here, they watch all of them, and that's why we as a family kind of like, as I'm taking care of my older family, we watch it and we get together. So I will overhear them watching Orville. Orville is the show made by Seth MacFarlane, who I do love. He's an incredible comedian, great voice. He created Orville, a Star Trek parody show. And I overhear it and I'm like, are you guys watching TNG? Like the character he has sounds exactly like the android from TNG Data, but it's his own show. So I got to give it to Seth MacFarlane for that one too. He's really good. But yeah, I which one do I like? I definitely like TNG the most, especially like once they put Whoopi Goldberg in it. You're like, oh, this show is it's a classic.
You're blowing Maud's mind right now.
She's not in the first season or something, maybe even the second, but she knows Geordie LaForge, who's played by Reading Rainbow, and I tweet him all the time. LeVar Burton. So my uncle told me that LeVar Burton told like Whoopi, he was like, he hangs out with Whoopi back in the 80s. And Whoopi was like, oh, man, I love Star Trek. I loved it back in the 60s. And LeVar Burton was like, oh, well, we're going to get you on the show. And that's why all of a sudden on that season, they're like, oh, we totally have a bar in Star Trek ship now. And she's the bar lady.
I had no idea.
And you're like, sure, okay.
What about the movies? Did you like the movies?
I haven't seen any of the movies. My mom.
All I've seen.
Huh? Yeah, my mom watches all the movies since I was a kid. My mom doesn't really watch the show, but she always watches all of the movies with like the original cast. So I like my mom quotes the movies all the time, and I like will always like watch them. And but I've never actually sat down and watched them myself.
No, I'm talking about the ones in the last decade.
Oh, actually, the 2009 one with Zachary Quinto, I loved it. Like his version of Spock, the Spock as a kid, he has this line where like your Vulcans are not supposed to have emotions, and the other kids are bullying him, and they come to him and he's like, "This is your 37th attempt to elicit an emotional response," and I loved it. I was like, like Gene Roddenberry, the creator, has been dead for like 15 years, but I think he would have been proud, of what they did with his characters. So yeah.
I love it. Will, I'm sorry if this has already been asked, but are you watching Picard?
Oh no, I haven't seen Picard yet. I have to finish TNG first,
Okay.
but I will watch it. I think I will because my uncles are watching it, and yeah, I love Sir Patrick Stewart. I gotta support, so I'll give it a look. I haven't watched Voyager or Deep Space Nine yet either. My uncle keeps calling it Deep 69, so he's messing me up with Deep Space Nine.
I mean, that would be a very different show, but I'm sure it exists on the internet somewhere. So with that being said, Will, thank you so much for telling us all about what you've been watching. I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people listening and watching this to check out TNG. Huzzah! Let's move into some Bombs Away Q&A with Amy.
Yeah, let's get some questions happening.
All right, so this one...
Really quickly, you were nodding along to so much of what Will was saying. I have a feeling you're a massive fan. Yeah,
the Next Generation, for sure. Yeah,
like
my mom used to watch it.
Like...
Yeah. I grew up watching The Next Generation, And my grandma, who I never met, loved Captain Kirk. Like, massively loved. Yeah, no. It's amazing. Yeah.
And then Futurama has the character inspired by him, Zach Brannigan.
No way.
You never seen? Oh, Zach Brannigan is like fake James Kirk. Like, yeah.
Dude. All right, so this question is from our Patreon, patreon.com/geekbomb. I will also be getting a live one right now on Twitch. This one's from Danny Boy. With recent events, what have you recently seen or experienced for yourself that gives you hope?
Recently seen for myself that gives me hope. Man, ooh, that's a good question. You know, I will talk about, you know, like the protests that have been going on lately. Like, you know, I've been taking care of my family. I absolutely cannot go to a protest and then come back into the house and like be getting my family food. Like, I can't do it. But like for years, I've been saying to people, like, how are we not protesting? Like, how are we? And the reason why it's so apparent now is because people don't have, we can't be distracted by sports. There's no new movies. There's no new TV shows. So now we have to really sit down and say, and look at ourselves and say, you know, our rights are at risk. And, you know, and they really have been this whole time. And so I have been like, I'm sure my friends and have heard me say, like, where are the protests? So even though I can't be there, I'm so proud of all of the peaceful protests that people are doing. I'm watching online. And like, I am not a big fan of like Twitter activism. I'm too critical of people of like, you know, thinking that just posting something on Twitter or Instagram is your duty ends there. To me, when I do something, I'm like, we need to really do something. That I'm like, we can tweet all we want, we can Instagram all we want, but what really matters is if we get out there and vote this November. That is what's going to actually create change in this world. So the fact that people have, but that's how I typically have felt since the 2016 election. But since over the past few weeks, I've noticed that people are actually, through social media, having conversations with people that they never would have before. And, you know, it may not be changing like a huge percentage of people. It's not like everybody who's talking to their uncle or whoever is like, I guess I'm different now. But the fact that people are having these conversations and using this moment to do that, I'm super proud of that. And I think it really will make a difference in the long run.
Yeah, I hope that you're right, Will. It's you know, it's so hard to kind of get lost in the hopelessness of the current situation, but the change that's happening and seeing the tangible results of the change as far as policy reforms, if they'll stick. But you're right, these little conversations mean everything.
People are being held accountable. Like, I can say all I want about, like, you know, it's more than just Twitter. But people actually are using their platforms to hold the justice system accountable. All of a sudden, for some reason, the Justice Department is checking for retweets. So I will say that has made me proud and proved me wrong. So yeah, I'm happy about that.
And having all that information available, it's like, I like the fact that you can't navigate away from it. Like, it is just inundating, and when it's just constantly there, you're like, okay. You know,
like I said,
my argument is, with so much information out there, if you remain ignorant, you're doing it on purpose at this stage, and I have no time for that.
Yeah, there's just no distractions right now. We literally have to focus on this, and like I said, I really do think that it may end up making a difference. So that's giving me hope.
Switching to Twitch, this question's from the Catnip Ninja. What would you name a starship if you were to captain one?
Oh, never thought about that. Ooh, and I would 100% gotta be captain. Ooh, it's gotta be a beautiful name. So you got like the Enterprise, you got the Melbourne, there was the Yamato. That's a good one. It's gotta be like the Nausicaa. Yeah, the Nausicaa. Yeah.
What would you call it?
The Nausicaa.
What is?
Nausicaa.
Yeah, like the Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh.
The actually, it's not even a Studio Ghibli movie. It's pre-Ghibli, but it's a Hayao Miyazaki movie. Nausicaa,
Okay.
It's hard to say, but that would be the name of my ship, because it's a woman. Your ship's a woman. Come on.
How do you spell that? How do you spell that?
Nausicaa, Nausica, something like that. Yeah, I used to have all the mangas and stuff. I don't know where I put them, but yeah, that's my girl. She's my favorite anime character. She's I forget what the name of this movie trope, but she's like a character that all of the decisions she makes are good and rooted in truth, and she's a warrior princess. So like that's what I would want my ship to be. Like, the original Star Trek is kind of about battling a lot, but by the time they get to TNG, they have peace with the Klingons, and their duty is to explore the galaxy. They changed what they say in the 60s theme song from saying to go away, never go forward. Now it says to explore. So yeah, that's what I would name mine.
Oh, I like that.
I love that, Will.
Yeah.
So sweet. All right, well, everybody, thank you so much to everyone in chat and everyone on the Geek Bomb Patreon who asked questions for Will. Will, thank you for being here, for watching. Pretty soon, we are going to move into the next phase of Power Up, the reading phase. So stay right here.